Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Boesemine in the 15-minute pool on ICC. This is a German player. Let's check their stats while we're waiting for them to move. Good stats on this guy, wow. Excellent ratings across all time controls. Lots of games played in every time control too. 5-minute rating of 2300. Looks like he mainly sticks to 15-minute now. Also plays a fair amount of 3-minute. Not so much 5-minute. Well, okay, some 5-minute. We'll see if he makes a move. Always a little unnerving when they don't make a move right away. You're worried you're going to sit there for a long time. Okay, he does play c4. I usually play c6 against that. Do I want to experiment with anything else? b6 is another audacious move that I've been experimenting with. Let's play knight f6 this time around. We'll give him the option of playing d4 if he wants to transpose into something. He just plays g3. Let's play c5. And now after bishop g2, e6, it's really important that white play knight f3, because if they hadn't, I was going to play d5 and take over the center. Now if I play d5, they can take, and then play d4, and we have a Tarrasch defense. I might go for that. Yeah, I think I will go for that. Because I can't really set up like a hedgehog anymore, because b6 jumps right into the line of fire of his bishop on g2. I could play knight c6 if I want, but let's go for d5 and see if he's willing to go into a mainline Tarrasch. We'll pre-move this capture. He has a peak rating of 2284 in the 15-minute pool. Yeah, so now d4 and knight c6 could be played. I don't think it's to white's benefit to avoid d4. Like, there's no point really in doing that. So via a weird transposition, we could be in one of the main lines of the Tarrasch defense. I think I played maybe 1 or 2 games in the Tarrasch. I distinctly remember one game I played in a line involving c5, c4. That's in the 15-minute category. But I haven't really looked at the defense at all since then. So I'll be trying to recall some of that game, and also maybe employing a twist or two if I can. Always good to try new things. He's thinking a little while. It's not a whole lot to think about. There's either d4 or just castle right away. Don't think any other move makes sense for him. Like knight c3, I can push d4 myself. He doesn't want that. So what's it going to be? Against either castles or d4, I'll play knight c6. I'm tempted to even pre-move it, but that seems a little rash. If we can build up a time advantage early on, this will be helpful for the later stages of the game. You can never expect a quick knockout against some of these higher rated players in the standard pool. It just so often seems to come down to a mutual time scramble, like both players getting under 5 minutes and lots of action. Okay, now he castles and plays d4. And I'll just play bishop e7, the main move. He takes on c5, okay. So he took on c5 at a moment when I'd already moved my bishop. That's smart of him. And then bishop g5. Wonder if he's trying to develop the knight through d2 or something. Probably not. I don't see the advantage in doing that. So if I castle here, and he takes on f6, I take with my queen. Is that bad for me? Queen takes d5, I can take on b2. I don't think my queen gets trapped or anything. Yeah, I don't think so at all. Probably the way it'll go is like castles, and then he'll play knight c3, and then I play d4. Then there's a line that goes bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, knight d5. And I'll have to remember what to do in that line. But for now, let's just castle. So again, that line, if bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, queen takes d5, it looks like he's won a pawn because he's attacking my bishop at the same time. But I have queen takes b2 hitting his rook. And I think if queen takes c5, Queen takes a1. My queen can always escape. It looks precarious, but can always escape. Okay, so now d4, I believe, is the main move. Yeah, let's do that. And now it goes take, queen takes, and knight d5. It looks like knight e4 should be played, but knight d5 is the main move. Okay, and I think queen d8. Queen d8, knight d2, and then I'm going to be on my own. Huh. Yeah. Okay, queen d8, knight d2, and we'll see what's up. So once they've done this move, like now they can think about playing rook c1 and kicking my bishop off this nice perch. So like one move I could play is a6 to meet rook c1 with just bishop back to a7. I could, of course, play bishop e6 as well. That move is completely acceptable. But bishop e6, he'll play knight f4 and attack that bishop. Not sure about how I feel about that. Rook e8, maybe? Rook e8, rook c1, I could tuck the bishop on f8. But my d-pawn could be loose, couldn't it? This is where it would be really nice to have some precise knowledge. But like I said, my knowledge is running out a little bit. Keep looking at that a6 move, because I know it's common for black to have problems with the d-pawn in this particular line. Rook e8 at the same time feels very natural. Rook e8, rook c1, bishop f8. Let's say knight b3 then. Bishop e6, knight f4. Seems a little worse for me. Maybe okay, though. Okay, let's play rook e8. So see what he's got in store. Ultimately rejected a6. I'm just not sure the bishop really wants to be on that diagonal. It's a passive diagonal. So let's drop this guy back. Defends the e2 pawn. Makes sense. Maybe bishop g4 now? Eyeing that pawn again. There's also bishop e6, but bishop e6 kind of invites knight f4, so I think bishop g4 might be more constructive. Bishop g4, knight f3. Then I can just take on d5. It's a big blunder. Bishop h3 is also possible here. It's kind of a funny move. Take and then queen takes d5, but I don't think I have to like deflect his light square bishop. It seems a little silly. Yeah, so probably bishop g4. Let's do it. My bishop's kind of floating out here. It's not defended. So that makes me a bit nervous. H3 offers a draw. Weird. Well, I'm not going to take a draw. That's for sure. If bishop h5, then knight f4 might be his idea. Can I just win a pawn now? Bishop takes h3, bishop takes, and then queen takes d5? So it's like that same line, except I get to win a pawn. Same line I mentioned on the previous move. I'm not missing anything, am I? Bishop takes h3. Does he have anywhere he can go with his knight? That's annoying me. I don't think so. So bishop takes h3, bishop takes, queen takes d5. Looks like a pawn to me. Bishop back to g2. I can just play queen d7. Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'll take you up on your offer. Not the draw, the pawn. That offer. He might have only been anticipating bishop h5. h3 seems like one of those moves that you kind of flick in without thinking about it too much, but I think you just missed that I could do this. Unless I'm missing something, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. He takes, okay. So he can put the bishop back, but I think just queen d7, as I was saying. Guarding c6, we also reinforce b7. Could bring my queen elsewhere too, like maybe b5 or something, but d7 seems good enough. Queen b5 kind of hits e2 as well. It's a little tempting. I think he might go queen b5, queen b3, though, and just try to play for compensation. So let's bring this back. e2 remains a weakness. That's nice. Queen a4. Okay, rook c8 probably. He's threatening c6 multiple times. Could play rook e6 as well. Maybe rook e6 is interesting. Preparing to double. Ah, but he has bishop h3 then. Don't want to do that. Rook e6, bishop h3. That would be a blunder. Is d3 worth thinking about? Probably not. Especially since like he might have rook takes c6. Okay. A little bit worried about this knight jumping somewhere to try to get play. But maybe there's no clearly good square it can go to, though. Also, how does he apply the pressure to this c6 knight even further? He's already got 1, 2, 3 attackers on that square, but I have multiple defenders. Knight f3. Okay, so he is maybe trying to work the knight in somewhere. Hard to say where. I think if he could put the knight anywhere, he'd like to put it on d3, where it blockades my d-pawn. That'd be helpful for him. Even though I'm up a pawn, this is not a simple position. What is his plan? I want to get rid of this d-pawn, but I can't push it because he pins me. Maybe rook cd8 now, like a slight adjustment in our strategy. That reinforces the d-pawn, so I kind of like it for that reason. Also, maybe allows us to play knight e5 somewhere down the line. Let's do it. I'm not going to think for too long. He's been playing quickly. He thought a lot in the opening. Like, he debated on move 6 whether to play castles or not, and then he like whipped off the next many moves. Kind of weird. Now he might just be playing fast because he knows he's down a pawn. It's the type of pawn, though, that he probably has like half a pawn compensation. Maybe even slightly more than that. So my d-pawn's isolated. Otherwise, he has a pretty good position. Decent pieces. What to do now for him? The trouble I'm going to run into is that it's never a great idea for me to trade knights if I want to play for a win, because that's going to lead to an opposite color bishop position. So if I can't trade knights, it could be tough because I gotta tiptoe around the knight issue. Knight g5. So he renews the attack on my knight. Thinking knight e5 would be the sensible way to play this. Maybe knight b4? Knight b4, I'm attacking his queen. I could play queen b3, though. Maybe knight e5 is the way to go. Knight e5, queen takes, rook takes. Yeah, let's do that. Just play it simple. Am I scared of knight e5, queen back to c2? I have d3 in that case. That should be all right. h6 maybe first. Tough to say. Okay, I'm just going to do this. See if he swaps. Get our trade ready. Ah, he can take a7. I might have just blundered a7. He does take it. Well, it's not going to be entirely clear, but for some reason I blanked on the fact that he could take this pawn. d3 maybe? Just play for the initiative. Yeah, let's make this crazy. At least we can finally get rid of this d pawn. Just advance it. Doesn't really have time to take on b7 because I have d2. All right, well, we're unintentionally making this a fight rather than trying to nurse our extra pawn advantage. Yeah, time definitely played into that blunder. I was trying to stay somewhat even on the clock. And in doing so, I lost track of that a pawn. All right, knight takes d3 now. Or queen f5. I was thinking knight takes d3 first. Probably best to play that right away. Knight takes d3, rook takes e8, rook takes e8, rook d1. I have queen f5 then. Knight e4. Maybe that's nothing for me. If I play queen f5 immediately, what's going on? Queen back to e3? Can he really do that? Knight takes d3, bishop e4? Weird. Don't know. I feel like I should play knight takes d3, but now I'm looking at queen f5. So that feels good too. Knight takes d3, rook takes e8. Rook takes to e8, rook d1. I can play bishop c5 there. So if queen takes, knight takes. What if bishop c5, rook takes d3? Not sure I have a good response to that. Still kind of want to go for this line, though. All right, let's do it. Show me what you got. He might just play this rook to d1. But still I have that queen f5 move. Attacking his knight and also looking towards bishop c5 as well. It's complicated. No matter how you slice it. If he takes on e8, am I definitely taking with a rook? I think so. Yeah, taking the queen doesn't impress. So let's just pre-move that just in case. Good to pre-move a forced recapture if you can. So let's check that line. Rook takes e8, rook takes e8, rook d1. If bishop c5, he has rook takes d3. That's the move I'm caught on right now. I wonder if I can actually play queen f5 then. Hitting the queen and then attacking f2 as well. I don't know, though. He might escape. Like queen takes b7, queen takes f2 check, king h2. Not entirely sure. If he plays rook d1, I'm going to be at a tough decision. I'll have to calculate quickly and accurately. I could always play like rook d1, rook e1 check if I want to get the rooks off and get out of the pin. But then he can swap and maybe b7 is hanging. My first instinct was queen f5. Okay, he's actually going here. So if bishop c5, queen takes b7 is his argument, I suppose.
Draw.
Offers another draw. Again, I don't really want to draw. I want to see what happens. Okay, so he is on b7, though, so I have to be practical about this, too. If queen f5, what happens if queen f5? I'm hitting his knight. Queen f5, queen takes b7, queen takes g5, queen d7, I have rook d8. So that's no good for him. Let's play it. Anything else I'm missing? Don't think so. Now bishop c5 is strengthened too. That's a nice aspect of this move. Maybe he can play knight f3. Knight f3, bishop c5, queen takes b7. Let's say knight takes f2, rook takes f2 then. Could I play queen c2 at that point? Perhaps. Queen takes f7, is that possible then? Craziness, wow. I'm not sure after knight f3, bishop c5, queen takes b7, what in the world's going on there? I could play g5 maybe, trying to go g4. Ooh, that might be a good move. Because he's kind of stuck in that position. Yeah, maybe g5 is good there. Okay, we'll see if it comes up. Maybe knight h3 should be played right now for him. Just to reinforce f2. That's by far his weakest point right now. So knight here. My b-pawn might be past saving, unfortunately. Might just be a casualty of war. Knight h3, rook e2, perhaps? Could be. Queen takes b7, rook takes b2. Somehow that seems to be fizzling. Yeah, almost just fizzling to a draw. Knight h3 could be a tough one if he plays it. Maybe I play b5. Knight h3, b5. And just say I'm just going to play chess while your knight is out of bounds and your rook is tied down to the defensive f2. Be a good move to play quickly as well. So maybe I'll do it. Because my knight is defended. My queen does a great job of defending the knight and the pawn on b5 in that case. So he can't play some move that like attacks my undefended rook and also hits that knight. Still haven't fully figured out what to do with knight f3 in this position. And lo and behold, he plays it. I could play b5 all the same. Let's check that line. Bishop c5, queen takes b7. And then I think I was just saying I was going to play g5, was it? Bishop c5, queen takes b7, g5. Yikes. Okay. I could also just play b5, but b5, knight d4. Okay, let's do this one. That g5 might be the missing ingredient. Because I think queen takes b7, taking on f2 doesn't look like it pans out, really. I don't see any killer continuation after that. Because my back rank is weak all the time. So let's do this one. I'm hoping he doesn't have a move like g4 that crosses my plans. I don't think he does. g4, I can just take it. If queen b5, I have rook d8. Defending the knight. So purpose of g5 is twofold. Like one, play around with the idea of g4. Also taking on f2, trading everything, and then g4 to pin his knight. Also, I'm just making lift for my king, making sure the king can come out to g7. He's got 3.5 minutes remaining. I'll have to find a good move to play against this. It's tough. It's tough for both sides. I'd say more so for him, because I'm on the attack, and he's having to fight for his life in defense here. Note that queen b5 would just lose on the spot to bishop takes f2. Queen b5 maybe being played to attack that rook on e8. And now that the back rank is clear, like I might just play rook e2 next move as well. Attacking f2 again. He could maybe try to defend by move like king h2. Okay, so he goes and attacks the rook. So if I play rook e2, what's his follow-up? And is there one? I can also play rook c8 in this position, hitting his queen. Let's not get fancy. Let's just do this. Two minutes remaining. He has 2:43. The pressure might compel him to move his king. King h2. Just as a preemptive measure. But then I get knight takes f2 in. My pieces are swarming. So nice not to have to worry about a back rank threat. c8 is covered by my queen, so he can only check me on a8. e8 is covered by the rook. So he can check me on a8, but king g7, no problem. Knight takes g5 doesn't do anything. I just take with the queen. Yeah, so he does play that move. But I think just knight takes f2. I'm hoping this is going to end him. Is there anything crucial my knight was doing that it's not going to be doing anymore? I don't think so. Not sure I have like a concrete threat right here. Queen h3 is almost a threat. Queen h3, bishop takes, knight g4, double check. King h1, I don't have a mate on h2. I'm going to keep that idea in my memory banks, though. It might prove useful. Knight g4 is sort of a threat. Knight g4 would force king h1. And then I just need to get something to the h-file to checkmate him. Maybe knight g4 and come into e3. Or take on g2 and then come into e3. Could be a threat. Yeah, in fact, that is a pretty strong threat. He has trouble finding a move right now. Finally plays b4. I think he's just trying to confuse me a little bit with that one. Bishop e3. Bishop e3 keeps all of the threats alive. He has a check on a8, but that's it. Oh, he's a check on e8, though. Okay, let's do this first.
Check.
And then decide. Rook e6 doesn't quite work. Albeit tempting. Knight e3. Not sure about that one. Where's my checkmate? Rook takes g2 is the most forcing. Just don't see it quite working out. Rook takes g2, king takes, knight e3, king f2, queen c2. What about rook takes g2, king takes? Rook takes g2, queen takes c5.
Time warning.
I gotta make a move. Okay, let's do it. Yeah, I just had to do something at that point. I'm worried about queen takes c5, though. Ugh. Yeah, he plays it. All right, I'm just going for the end game. Try to do something with this. I'll try to get my rook behind the pawn. Let's play f6. Try.
Check.
Go attack his rook.
Check.
Okay, he's just gonna...
Check. Check. Check.
Ooh, now he's blundered. All right. This is going to be a draw. Okay. Yeah, that was too bad because I feel like I should have won that at the end, but didn't have quite enough time to figure it out. That was tricky. Yeah, the bane of my existence, the clock. I was lucky to get a draw at the end, too. Yeah, he totally blew that. After knight f3, I could take the knight, but in that case, I'm not sure I would have won, or would have sealed the draw. But it's a draw because he has no mating material, for those who are wondering. Okay, let's go back and take a look. So we got into this Tarrasch via a transposition. It took an unusually long time on this move, but who knows. So we played one of the main lines with bishop g5, castle, knight c3, d4, and now this line, take, take, knight d5. Like I said, knight e4 seems like the correct move, but queen e7 kind of deals with that. So we played knight d5. I go back to d8. So here I just don't know the theory. I know of this position, but I've never played it for either side. So rook e8 seemed like a decent move, so I played it. Like I said, I was also thinking about a6 and trying to put the bishop on a7. Let's just see. Rook e8, rook c1, bishop back here. This is the game continuation. Looks like I played it okay. The computer prefers to put the bishop on f5 versus g4. Okay. So here, and then he blundered with h3. Yeah, that does seem like a clear blunder. I was thinking like maybe they could go after the d-pawn, because as I said, this is the one thing that concerns black in this opening in general, the Tarrasch, and also this line in particular, because the knight on d5 kind of cuts off my queen from defending that pawn. But fortunately for us, he played h3. We just take and deflect his bishop. The computer likes my position more than I liked it. And here it says just go after that a2 pawn. Why did I reject that? Something seemed off about that. I think I saw stuff like rook takes, c6, b takes, and then bishop takes. But maybe there's no reason to fear this at all. I just keep grabbing pawns. So he's forking my two rooks. Big deal. I'm already up material. Okay, so I should have just gone after that pawn on a2. I guess I neglected queen takes a2, and then later on, in a few more moves coming up, I also neglected to look at queen takes a7. Yeah, rook ac8 to defend c6. Plays knight f3. And here I did just a little adjustment, rook cd8. Looks like a good move. Backs up my queen, too. Now knight e5, yeah. I don't think I should play that move. Queen f5 seems better. Attacking the knight, also looking at the f2 pawn. Yeah, that's a clearly better move, I think. But I offered a queen trade, and he grabbed the pawn on a7. d3. Looks like the engine thinks I'm still doing very well here, so it must think I have an initiative. It felt that way during the game. Here I was debating a little bit between d3 and queen f5. Couldn't quite decide. So d3 it was. E takes and now knight takes. Queen f5 is also good. Okay. Yeah, that's an alternative path. Knight h3, knight takes. This could be similar to the game. Actually, it could transpose, couldn't it? Pretty close to it. Except with the knight on h3 versus f3. So I took on d3. One line I was trying to calculate was rook takes e8, rook takes e8, rook d1. They played rook f1 instead, but rook d1 I wasn't totally sure what to do. I thought bishop c5 could be good, because if queen takes, then knight takes, and my knight is defending the queen on d7, so I'd win an exchange out of that. But I noticed that he could play, after bishop c5, this move rook takes d3. So deflecting my queen this time. And somehow it ends up being a draw, huh? Queen f5, queen takes b7, getting the queen out of danger. Bishop takes f2, king h2, queen takes g5, bishop d5, and the computer thinks it's going to be roughly equal. Okay. He played rook f1. I went queen f5, attacking the knight. Yeah, I thought knight h3 should be played. I thought they needed to reinforce f2 to a stronger degree. And knight f3, they walk into somewhat of a pin. Bishop c5. Queen takes b7. Okay, so here I could take on f2, huh? How does that work? Bishop takes f2. I was just worried about rook takes. Queen c5. Ah, yeah, that move escaped my attention. So pinning this. I was more so just looking at rook takes, knight takes rook, and then after king takes, like trying to come in and check. But I thought the king would like dance away over to h2. Queen c5 though. What if knight d4 then? Trying to open attack on f7. Ah, then just take with a knight. Okay. And no more queen takes f7, and this knight is hanging. Okay, so black should win. Ooh, that would have been helpful to see. Bishop takes f2. I was rather proud of g5, but it's not as good as just bishop takes f2. But I thought this move was nice, because like I said, it accomplishes 2 goals. Threatens g4 in a lot of cases. Also threatens to take on f2, and then after these trades, play g4 with the pin. And it also just solves my king problem. He played queen c6, and here I started spending a little more time than I would have liked. Like rook e2. Looks like a good move, but maybe just rook c8. I rejected rook c8 because I thought my rook would have been nicer on this file, but maybe that's a moot point. g4 now, wow. It's the top move according to the engine. Yeah, it's a pretty complicated position for having 2.5 minutes left each. Rook e2, king h2. I took with the knight. Yeah, and then he found b4, like one of the best ways to complicate the position, one of the only ways to complicate the position. And I think the point of b4 is like he's trying to knock my pieces off balance. And if this bishop moves from its current diagonal, he might gain more options. Like d4 is covered, I can't move it there. b6 is covered, I also can't move it there. If bishop a7, there's queen a8 check.
Check.
And he's going to go take this bishop next move. So if I want to keep my bishop on this diagonal, the a7 g1 diagonal, I have to play this. But then he can go check here. King g7, and I just saw that he could play queen e5, but I guess this move also works too. That's nifty. Because I have trouble on the e file. If bishop takes, then just queen takes e2. And if rook takes, just queen takes e3. So I saw those lines when he played b4, and this is an annoying move. It's a great counter chance, so he was being very resourceful with this move. It's a great practical chance, even if black probably should win.
Check.
So I went check, and then here. Yeah, and here I burned my last, like, minute, basically, out of a minute 12, trying to figure out what to do. It really felt like there should be a forced win. I just couldn't find it. You know, I had this same problem against a guy I played a couple weeks ago, Complex Zeta, where I was in a great position, thought I was winning, and the clock just caught up with me in the end. And I couldn't get it done, even though I knew that the position was just almost just crushing. And yeah, I was having some flashbacks to that game. This time I saved the draw. In that other game against Complex Zeta, I didn't manage to save the draw, despite the position being a draw at the end. Yeah, so bishop e3. Why didn't I like that? I thought on bishop e3... I thought there was a series of checks he could do, but maybe not.
Check.
Because now queen e5 is not possible. My knight is guarding that square. I'm not quite sure why I rejected bishop e3. Somehow, maybe I thought it was too slow? I don't know. It's hard to psychoanalyze your decisions when you have this little time left. I mean, the obvious solution to this is not to be in this position at all. But in a 15-0 game, it's like bound to happen. So you're seeing me making a lot of decisions under pressure in these games. My opponents, too. So I took on g2. This works great if he takes with the king, I thought, because it's check. And then I saw that if this, I have queen c2. But maybe even this is not so good. King g1. Wow. Walking into discoveries voluntarily, but he always has queen takes c5 to bail out. So like if knight takes f1, queen takes c5, check. Or not check, sorry. Queen takes c5, just hitting my queen. I don't really want to trade, because now I'm probably in close to a losing endgame with the c-pawn being so dangerous. Maybe not, but queen takes f3, he takes here, and it looks like he has a perpetual check. King f8, check. Here, check. Check. So no win to be found in this case. Or if king h8, same thing.
Check.
Wow, so he could even take on g2, and I still don't have a win. I really had to play bishop e3. That was the magic move. And he played queen takes c5 going for the win. Yeah, now I had 12 seconds to play this endgame. And as you saw, this was a far from perfect endgame by both of us. Yeah, at various times I thought he could just run the c6 pawn, or the c pawn, just push c6, and if I take c7, I'd probably have to give up my rook then. If he would have slowed down a little bit, he could have flagged me. He could have kept material on and just won on time.
Check.
But he got a little excited. Like right here, I was giving some checks, and then I brought my rook back.
Check.
Like here, he could just take on f5 with check if he wanted. Buys time and avoids simplifications.
Check.
Oh, he actually hung his rook. I didn't notice that. Completely didn't notice I could play knight takes c6. And he had plenty of time, too. I mean, he has 20 seconds. Not plenty of time, but 5 times as much time as I do at this point.
Check.
So rook c6. I definitely should have taken that, but I was just playing at lightning speed, trying to eliminate his rook plus pawns. Because once I get it down to this, it's a draw. Okay, I think that's like a fitting end to the game.
Check.
Him having no mating material left. Pretty interesting game. I got to figure out how to improve in these like tactical scenarios that just boil down to the last couple minutes. It's really tough because I'm kind of a perfectionist in chess, and I always want to. I mean, I think any decent player is a perfectionist in chess. Like you always want to try to arrive at the most incisive continuation to like win the game. And here I couldn't pull the trigger on it because I wasn't sure what it was, to be quite honest. Like I kind of thought it might be bishop e3, but I didn't have enough time to check. And by the time I looked over at my clock, I was already at a time warning. It was under 20 seconds, and bad stuff happening. Okay, but pretty good play up till that point, I think. Maybe missed a couple opportunities, but nothing major. Yeah, I dropped the a-pawn. That was sloppy, but managed to go on the counterattack with d3. All in all, it was a good struggle. Good game. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this game. I'll be back tomorrow with another standard game. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.